What's up with everybody? It's your Memorial B.
And
we're
Nicole.
back in with another reaction video. Yeah, special video request from Bo.
Bo.
Bo wanted us to react to
Crazy rescue mission of hijacked airplane, Operation Entebbe.
Entebbe. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty interesting.
I know, this looks cool.
Yeah, I know. That's
How do
crazy.
you come across these things?
Yeah, I know. It's pretty good. Like I say, Bo, thank you for your support
thank you.
and your awesome request. If you want to support the channel and pick out our next video, check out the links to our stream live. It's going to be in our description and our video course and virtual link. And keep the videos under 10 minutes. But let's dive right into it.
Mossad agents have crossed the border into Uganda en route to scout out the airport and its defenses. Other Mossad agents, meanwhile, have flown to Paris, where they're conducting interviews with the released hostages. One of them, a French-Jewish passenger with a military background, has an extraordinary memory and is able to provide information not just on the airport, but on the hijackers and the number and types of weapons they carry.
Okay.
All this information is relayed back to the IDF.
Oh, so it's the person that's already on the
Israeli
plane.
construction
Yeah.
company, which had actually built the exact terminal where the hostages are being kept years ago. Building a miniature replica of the terminal, the Israelis began to piece together where the hostages may be being kept and prepare their strike force. The plan is risky, but
Yeah, it is.
4
Like,
C-130s
man.
would take off from Israel and head to Uganda with a strike force of 100 commandos who would
Whoa,
assault
they
the
had
airport
100.
terminal, secure the airport against any Ugandan military forces responding to the attack while the planes refueled, and then fly everyone home. The men are split into 3 elements. Ground command and control
Wait.
consists of a small group, including the ground commander, Brigadier General Dan Shamron, and support and communications personnel. The assault element consists of a 29-man assault force, led by Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu, and made up entirely of commandos from the elite Sayeret Matkal unit. They will be the spearhead of the assault and are tasked with breaching the terminal and rescuing the hostages. The security element is the largest element and is made up of 3 parts. A force of paratroopers will secure the airport field, clear and secure the runways, and protect the
there.
aircraft while they're fueling.
Okay.
The Golani
Okay.
force will secure the C-130 tasked with rescuing the hostages and board them, while also acting as general reserves and reinforcing where needed. The Sayeret Matkal force will clear the military airstrip nearby and destroy a squadron of MiG fighter jets on the ground to prevent any possible interceptions by the Ugandan Air Force. They will
Sheesh.
also repel any attack by Ugandan military forces responding from the nearby city of Entebbe. The plan is set, and with time nearly running out late in the evening of July 3rd, just hours before the July 4th deadline, the strike force loads into their waiting C-130s. The 4-plane flight takes off and flies over the Red Sea at a height of no more than 100 feet. From their windows, the soldiers could see waves breaking below them as the
100
airplanes
feet.
roar
Yeah.
along at almost 400 miles an hour. The strike force is flying low and
kinda
fast
low.
to
Yeah,
avoid
extremely
radar
low.
detection by the Egyptians,
I wondered.
Sudanese, and the Saudi Arabians, fearing that if they're detected, the mission may be given away.
That's why they
Plus,
so
there's
low.
the added
So they won't be
concern that
detected. That's
any of
crazy.
these
Oh.
nations, not
And
currently on
fast.
friendly terms with Israel, may decide to intercept the flight. The Israelis, after all, did not gain permission to penetrate or approach their airspace.
Oh,
flying
yeah,
at
it's
30
airspace,
meters
so they
lets
can't-
the Israelis avoid ground-based radar. If any military aircraft happen to be in the sky, they would
So they gotta be like at a
quickly
certain
detected
distance,
by
so they won't be
airborne
detected
radar.
by
And so
the
far out of
air,
range of Israeli
then
jets,
the land.
there
But you think
is
somebody that
no
see a
hope
plane,
of
that
protecting the
they're
strike
low.
force from hostile attack. Nervously, the pilots keep an iron grip on their control sticks. At such low altitudes, the smallest mistake will send them plummeting into the ocean, just
Yeah.
100 feet below them, disintegrating the massive planes on impact. Trailing behind the strike force's C-130s are a flight of 2 Boeing 707s, civilian transports that have been retrofitted with medical facilities, and a
Wow.
command post for the commander of the operation, General Yakutiel Adam. Hours later, the planes have landed at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi, Kenya. One of the 707s, the medical support plane, is left behind, while the other 5 planes are refueled and take off for the assault on Entebbe International Airport. On approach to the airport, the remaining 707 circles overhead, allowing General Adam to remain in contact with his forces on the ground. At 2300 hours, the 4 C-130s all make a combat landing on the airport's runway, their cargo bay doors already open and ready to discharge the men inside. In the darkness, though, the first plane almost taxis straight into a ditch, but the other 3 land without incident. From one of the C-130s, a black Mercedes made to look like President Amin's personal vehicle rolls out, followed by 2 Land Rovers, all bearing the insignia of the Ugandan president. Inside each vehicle are Israeli commandos, hoping to be able to roll past 2 known security checkpoints. However, as the vehicles approach, one of the sentries orders the cars to stop. He knows that Amin has recently purchased a white Mercedes and is suspicious. As the vehicle rolls to a stop, Lieutenant Colonel Netanyahu orders the commandos inside to shoot the sentries. The commandos fire 2 shots at the sentries using their silenced pistols and roll away. Yet as one of the Land Rovers approaches, they realize the sentries are still alive. Orders are clear. There can be no sentries left alive who may raise the alarm. The last Land Rover pulls to a halt, and an Israeli commando hops out, killing the 2 sentries. Upon hearing the gunshot from the commando's unsilenced rifle, the assault force fears that they've been given away, and the vehicles roar to the airport terminal at high speed. Meanwhile, armored personnel carriers are being hurriedly unloaded from the other C-130 planes. One force of armored vehicles hurries to the main entrance of the airport to set up a defensive position should Ugandan military forces respond from the city. The other immediately roars to the adjacent military airfield and begins to rake the 11 Ugandan MiGs with cannon fire. Ugandan pilots rush out from their barracks in a panic, but upon seeing their planes being destroyed by heavy cannon fire, flee from the airfield. In moments, all that remains of the MiGs are smoking wrecks riddled with heavy caliber machine gun fire. On the flight line, the security element has fanned out around the C-130s as the planes begin to refuel from onboard fuel tanks. The mood is tense and suddenly gunfire is heard from the direction of the airport control tower as the Guarani force comes under fire from Ugandan army forces. Back inside the terminal, the commandos burst into the building. One of the soldiers uses a bullhorn and screams in both English and Hebrew, stay down, we are Israeli soldiers." Unfortunately, a 19-year-old boy stands up in the confusion and is immediately cut down by the commandos, who believes that he is one of the hijackers. Another hostage is also wounded by the commandos in the confusion, but the rest dive to the floor and keep their heads down. One of the hijackers, the German Wilfried Bose, rushes into the hall holding the hostages and brandishes his AK at them, but a moment later seems to have a change of heart. Instead of firing at them, he orders the hostages to seek shelter in the bathroom, then turns and starts firing at the commandos. In moments, he is cut down by Israeli gunfire. One of the commandos asks the hostages where the rest of the hijackers are, and the hostages all point at a door inside the terminal's main hall. The commandos quickly form an assault team, lining up on either side of the door and toss in 3 hand grenades. As soon as the grenades explode, the commandos burst through the doors to discover the wounded and stunned hijackers, who are immediately shot dead. With the building secure, the commandos rush the hostages to the exit and hurry them along to a waiting C-130. Outside, though, the Gulani force is under assault by a platoon of Ugandan soldiers, most of which have holed themselves up in the airport control tower. From their vantage point, the Ugandan soldiers begin to fire down at the hostages as they're being loaded into their C-130. But the Israeli armored vehicles respond with their automatic cannons. Cannon fire blasts the concrete structure, eliminating many of the Ugandans hiding within. But return fire wounds 5 of the commandos and kills the assault element's commander, Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu. In response, the Israelis fire a rocket-propelled grenade into the tower and strafe it with machine gun fire, effectively silencing any opposition within. Loading the rest of the hostages and Netanyahu's body onto the plane, the assault force is quickly in the air. The entire operation has lasted only 53 minutes, with the assault itself only lasting 30 minutes. 7 hijackers, 33 to 45 Ugandan soldiers, and 11 Ugandan MiGs have been lost to the Israeli commandos, and only 3 hostages have been killed, with 10 wounded. The C-130s fly to Nairobi and link up with the waiting medical plane, which immediately begins to treat the wounded as it climbs into the sky and heads for home. In the aftermath of the raid, Israel faced international condemnation from many states, with the resolution raised in the UN by Benin, Libya, and Tanzania, condemning Israel for what it called provocative actions, though it was not put to a vote. The Ugandan and Israeli representatives were summoned before the UN Security Council after a complaint was filed by the chairman of the Organization of African Unity, charging Israel with an act of aggression. The Ugandan foreign minister claimed that the hostage situation was nearing a peaceful diplomatic resolution, while the Israeli ambassador charged Uganda with being fully complicit in the hijacking. In the end, a general resolution condemning international terrorism and calling for stronger civil air security without condemning Israel's actions was raised, but failed to pass in the General Assembly. Most Western nations would go on to praise the Israeli raid, with representatives of the UK and the USA congratulating Israel on an impossible operation. Uganda's President Tamim, however, was furious and threatened direct military action against Kenya for their support of the operation. In response, the US dispatched the supercarrier USS Ranger and her escorts to the Indian Ocean and based it off the Kenyan coast. ready to respond if Uganda followed through with its threats. While he did not take direct military action against Kenya, Amin did order the murder of one of the hostages who had been left behind, Dora Bloch, a 74-year-old Israeli woman who had been taken to the hospital after choking on a chicken bone. Ugandan military officers showed up at her hospital room and dragged her out of her bed before fatally shooting her, along with several Ugandan doctors and nurses who tried to intervene. Amin would also go on to order the killing of hundreds of Kenyans living in Uganda in retaliation, with as many as 245 Kenyans killed by July 11 and 3,000 fleeing the nation as refugees. Was the decision to use military force the right call for Israel, or should diplomacy have been tried to the end?
Yes.
Should terrorists be negotiated with?
Yeah, that was crazy, man. I mean,
I understand when they say you don't negotiate with terrorists.
But
at the same time, they didn't just go against this terrorist group; they went against another government. And
they did.
That's when you raised the issue.
That's what he got kind of pissed at because Uganda. The president of Uganda, I guess he didn't know about the hijacking.
No. I think they knew it was happening, and they were probably negotiating with the hijackers.
Yeah, I'm saying they weren't part of the terrorist attack. They just knew it was happening, and they were trying to.
Well, Israel is claiming that they were part of it.
Yeah.
But obviously, Uganda's claiming they weren't part of it. So we don't really know, but I don't know. It does seem crazy to just go with such mass force, but we also don't know like how much they've done before that too. So it's a hard judgment call.
Yeah, it really is, man. This stuff is definitely pretty interesting, man. Man, it's just crazy to think about it. And like you said, they killed that one 19-year-old kid because I don't know if he can understand their language.
I don't know. There were two hostages that were unfortunately killed during it. They said they told him to get down, and he stood up, so they thought he was a hostage. And shot him. So it sucks, and that's just it. When you go into that kind of situation and you decide to take it with force, and that there's going to be things like that, accidents that happen like that.
It was just hard. It's completely horrible, man. I mean, because he pretty much probably was innocent, and then take his life.
Except for you would think would you study who all of the hostages are?
I think right now they try to get better at it, you know, because I'm sure
doesn't happen.
They killed a lot of hostages before, and a lot of families probably was pissed or tried to sue, you know. But definitely, man, great one.
That was interesting.
Bo, definitely a great video.
Yeah, thank you.
But we want to go to the end of this video. If you want to support our channel,
check out our link to Patreon, where we do extended movie and TV show reactions. Or if you shop on Amazon, use our link below, and we'll get a percentage of anything you purchase through there.
Don't forget to subscribe
and thumbs it up.
Turn on notifications. It's your man, B.
And Nicole.
We're gonna catch you on the next 1,000. Peace and love, baby.